What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Simon Rochford here with another photography tutorial video. It's so nice to have you here, smiling faces and all that, although I can't see your smiling faces because all I'm doing is looking at a camera lens, but I'm assuming you're smiling. Anyway, thanks for being here, watching this video. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button and please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, enough about that. Let's jump into the video. So you've bought yourself a brand new camera. Maybe it's a DSLR, it's a mirrorless, Micro Four Thirds, and you're ready to rock and roll, full of enthusiasm to go and take amazing pictures, and the photos that turn out are not the way that you like.
Disappointed!
So in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that beginner photographers make and how to overcome them so you can take better pictures. Mistake number 1. Shooting only in auto mode. Automatic mode is not your enemy.
This man is not our enemy.
But after a certain point, it doesn't become your friend either. It's fantastic to be able to just put the camera in auto mode and go shoot, because the most important thing is just taking pictures. But eventually you are going to hit a wall because you're not able to manipulate the 3 main elements of creating exposure: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. Knowing how to manipulate these things is vital for creating awesome images and being able to react to the environment that you're in. Now, the idea of jumping straight into manual mode is pretty scary, and trust me, I've been there. It's a bit intimidating.
I'm not afraid.
But on your camera, you'll see 2 settings: AV and TV. AV stands for aperture priority, and TV generally stands for shutter priority. What this means is that you can set your camera so that you're only controlling one of those 3 elements. In aperture priority mode, which is preferred by myself to try, you would set the aperture. If you have a kit lens or maybe a 50mm 1.8 for example, you would set the aperture to f1.8. Then the camera does the rest. It will set the shutter speed, and if you set it to auto ISO, it will also set the ISO as well to expose the image correctly.
It's a nice photo.
I know it is.
This is a great place to start to figure out how your camera works and how it reacts in different scenarios and situations. Once you've maybe figured out how aperture works in AV mode, you can then flick it over to shutter mode and then see how it works in the same scenario. The main thing here is you want to learn the basic rules of the exposure triangle, because once you learn those rules, you can then break them to be able to create awesome images. You can play with the depth of field, you can start playing with things like shutter drag, but you're never going to be able to get to that point without learning those basic principles first. I have another video that talks about the exposure triangle in much more depth. I'll link that below and you can check that out. Mistake number 2, not thinking about your background. Yes, I've probably not got the most perfect background here. Apologies for that.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
But when we're taking photographs, sometimes we get so caught up with the subject of the image that we completely disregard and forget what's in the background. How many times have you maybe worked with a model, or maybe you've taken pictures of friends and you've got this awesome picture of them, the lighting is beautiful, their expression is fantastic, and there's a landscape or something sticking in their head, and it kind of ruins the image, and you try to fix it in Photoshop and it doesn't turn out as well as you had hoped. It's happened to me before. It sucks.
All around me are familiar faces.
So the important thing is just to take the time to look at the environment that you're in. If you're in an urban environment, maybe you're able to do a full 360 and take a look and maybe see what could be an ugly background, what could be distracting, maybe what's more visually appealing. If you know your settings a little bit better, maybe you can think of, well, would this be visually interesting if I had a more shallow depth of field and shot things differently? Just slow down and take the time to look at the environment that you're in and look at the photos that you're taking before you move on. Something that I found really helpful when I was trying to work on my photography is to restrict myself maybe to the one location that I was in. Once I figured out that it was a good location, the temptation can sometimes be to, okay, well, let's shoot and let's move on to another one and get as many photographs as possible. But the problem is sometimes you miss out on those opportunities to get great photos because you've not tried to get as much out of that one location. So maybe on your next shoot or when you're photographing friends or family or something like that, just do a bit of a 360, try to get as much out of the location and where you're shooting, and yeah, try to avoid getting plants or landscapes in people's heads. Mistake number 3, leaving your camera at home. Yes, I can be guilty of this at times, of leaving my camera at home when I go out, but I do shoot on a regular basis as a professional headshot photographer, so I spend pretty much every single day shooting. But as an amateur and when I was learning, I took my camera all over the place. I found my skills really went through the roof when I was living in London, and I wanted to go and explore the city and take photographs at the same time. I decided that street photography was something that scared the living daylights out of me, so I tried it out.
I'm afraid.
Composition, exposure, even just how to take a picture quite quickly and not draw attention to yourself was all stuff that I learned from doing street photography back in London. I also did a lot of night photography as well, which really got me to understand how you manipulate the shutter so you could get those cool light trails of buses going past. And even though that's stuff that I don't do now, I have that in my head because I took my camera out with me on some cold nights in London and learned about it. So if you're an amateur and enthusiast looking to up your skills, just take your camera with you. Particularly nowadays, if it's mirrorless or micro four thirds, that camera's going to be pretty small, so you can put it in your pocket or put it in your bag and just go out and shoot, and you will be able to see the difference really quickly. Mistake number 4, not shooting in RAW mode. So if you're really new to photography, you're probably wondering what on earth RAW is.
Raw, untamed power.
And what difference does this make? Well, RAW is the uncompressed file format that your camera can shoot in. There are 2 file formats you can shoot in generally, one being JPEG, which most people have heard of, and RAW. The difference is that RAW has so much more detail in the file.
You had so much detail!
So you're going to be able to bring back stuff in post where maybe some of the highlights you may have lost or maybe some of the shadows are gone. You'll be able to bring back extra details from your images that you weren't able to or can't in JPEG. JPEG are much smaller file sizes, so if you're shooting a lot of images on a card, then that's the best mode probably to shoot in. But if you're looking to really start manipulating your images and get the most out of them, shooting in RAW is the best way to do that. Each camera is different on where you can look at making those changes, so take a look at your manual, flick it over to RAW mode. You can even flick it to RAW and JPEG so you can have a look at the difference, and that'll really up your game because you're going to be able to get so much more out of your photos. And the last one, mistake number 5, is being overly concerned about gear. Funny, probably something that you didn't expect to come up in this video.
I did not.
Gear envy can be a big issue and can hold us back. I remember the first DSLR that I bought was a Canon 450D, and all I had was the kit lens, and then I went to buy a nifty 50, which was like $100 at the time, and that was all I had. For indoor use or for portraits, the 50mm f1.8 was fantastic, although it was the older one with the plastic back. For you photography nerds out there, you'll understand what I mean. The newer version is way better. And I had the 17-55 kit lens, which was great for stuff that was outdoors, for landscapes and things like that. And for quite a while, it was perfectly fine for what I needed it for. I even remember shooting a picture of a couple of friends of mine in a restaurant, and the pop-up flash was creating these really bad shadows, but I only had the kit lens, so I didn't have a low enough f-stop on it to be able to shoot in low light. So what I actually did is I grabbed a napkin and tore part of it off to diffuse the flash, and the photo came out really nicely. This was all about me learning how to be able to get the most out of the basic gear that I had, and that I think is really important to know. The temptation can be to just throw money at your problems and buy newer and better equipment without actually understanding the gear that you already have. I recently just bought myself oh my goodness, it's heavy, a 70-200 f2.8 IS lens. This is the version 2. Now, I bought this off of Craigslist actually for a job because I was doing so many corporate headshots, and beforehand I had the 85mm f1.8 Canon lens, which is not even an L lens, and that's what I was using for years, and it did the job. But the problem was I started finding a situation where I was the framing was becoming an issue for me, so I wanted something that was able to zoom in and out a little bit, but also give me those tack sharp images. Now this is an absolute beast of a lens and not really something that a beginner would use, but the point is that I took my time until I bought what I needed. I basically almost hit the wall where the equipment that I had was not doing the job properly, and I finally bit the bullet and went and bought what I needed. Okay, this is getting really heavy now, so I'm gonna put it away. This is an absolute beast. That's much better. There we go. Yeah, that's a heavy lens, so yeah, you gotta bring the guns for that bad boy.
1002.
So don't compare yourself to others, don't look at their gear and get gear envy. I know it can be difficult because looking at a really nice L lens, for example, or an expensive piece of glass. I've been looking at the Canon R5 and I'm drooling. I haven't even seen it in real life yet. But just be happy with what you have, exhaust all the possibilities and use as much as possible. And then when you're ready, go and invest in some of the best glass, the best lenses that you can possibly get, or whatever you're looking to buy. So there you have it, 5 different mistakes that most beginner photographers make and how to overcome them so you can take better pictures. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found something useful. If you want me to cover something else or you have a different mistake that you've managed to overcome that I didn't mention, please leave a comment down below. It's great to hear from you guys. Also, hit that subscribe button if you like this video and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Help this channel grow. I really appreciate everything you guys do, and I will see you in the next video. Stay safe, guys. Bye.